Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to our match reaction show. It's finished. Miami nil, Nashville nil. Messi's human. He's human, isn't he? I mean, the fact is, it's probably his worst game for Inter Miami. Now, I say worst in the sense of course, the fact that he's been so brilliant throughout his time at Inter Miami for the first 10, 15 games that he's played. And of course, there was bound to be a dip, and today was dip. He was still pretty good. He was probably still probably Miami's second best attacking player. I would say behind, for me, I thought Tomaski was very brilliant today, but I'll talk about him a bit later. I think Messi was still probably the most important creative force for Inter Miami, probably the most important attacking force for Inter Miami. I just think that today Nashville came in with a plan to nullify him, and they figured that out, and they nullified him. And what we saw today is that if teams can keep Lionel Messi quiet, this is still an Inter Miami team that's not been very good this season. And that, of course, is a big ask. It's a big if to say that the teams can keep Lionel Messi quiet. But I think what a lot of teams will say is that it can be done. It can be done. It's just very tough. It's just very tough. That's what it is. But I thought the first half is where I think Inter Miami kind of gave it away a little bit, because I think they were a little bit flustered with how Nashville approached the game. In the first half, it was very, very deep, low block defending. They were kind of, at times hanging on. It felt like that. It was quite clear that the game plan was just to frustrate and disrupt Inter Miami as much as they could in that first half, and that's what they were looking to do. I think Inter Miami just kind of got caught in that trap of thinking, sometimes what happens is when you play really well, and when you're in really good form, and Inter Miami have been in really good form, especially with the arrival of Messi and Alba and Busquets, what happens oftentimes is you start getting complacent. You start thinking things will happen, and you start to, rather than playing, in the moment, you start playing the occasion, you start playing the, you start thinking that things are going to happen even before they've happened. And I think that's what happened in that first half in Miami. And as the half wore on, you could start to see a little bit more of that, that mindset kind of started to change. It was like, why is this not happening? Why is this not happening? Frustration started coming into it. Lots of yellow cards as well for Inter Miami. And that is something they'll need to look at. But where the game I think changed was that second half, because once Nashville made the tactical substitutions that they did, bringing on Shufflebug, taking out Bunbury, bringing on Mukhtar, I don't think Martino was anticipating that. I think Martino thought, we're probably going to get another 15-20 minutes of this from Nashville. Let's bring on an extra attacking midfield, and let's try and dominate the game more, and let's try and get into those final third more and create more chances. I think that's where they not lost, but they sort of lost the initiative in some ways, because I think when Nashville brought on those attacking substitutions, immediately the game kind of opened up, because Miami didn't have the CDMs in there, and so what happened was Nashville had had the advantage on counterattacks. And as a defender, when you start, your mind starts going towards counterattacks, especially and not as a mid defender, but as midfielders, when your mind starts, wandering into, well, we're going to get countered upon, we're going to get countered upon, you often start to take less risks. Your passes start to look less imaginative, less inventive. And I think that's what was happening with Miami. Also, of course, Ryan Taylor, playing in midfield is not the answer that you need when you're trying to find a goal. It just didn't work. And it's one of those games where whatever Martino tried, nothing worked. Whatever Messi tried, it didn't work. He looked dangerous. There were a couple of chances where on another day maybe he could have made more of it. Maybe he could have done something. But I think today Nashville were just so disciplined, so stubborn, so resistant, and there was nothing even the great one could do. So that's what it was. And on the other side, Nashville actually had a couple of chances, but I think a little bit more composure, and they could have made more of the openings that they had, particularly Mukhtar and Picault. There's so many chances where Mukhtar's touch let him down, so many moments where Picault's pass let him down. Those are things that they will need to work on. They're very good defensive in Nashville, but where they get let down oftentimes is their finishing, and they're not that good in these sort of moments. And you have to be, when you're a team playing deep and counter, you've got to make sure that you take those counter-attacking opportunities and that you make the most of them. And they weren't doing that. Okay, they had the ball in the back of the net though. In that second half, it was offside. Like as soon as the ball went through, I was like, this is offside. It's got to be called back, and the referee called it back, right? But it was offside. But you think sometimes those kind of moments can kind of creep out into a defender's mind. And I'm just surprised that Nashville didn't make more of it after that, because once you've got behind, even though it was offside, the fact is they got behind the defense. And when you do that, you then got to start thinking, right, this is there, and you got to make defenders think. I think at times they didn't. I mean, Kamal Miller was brilliant as well with a couple of last-ditch tackles. So it was a very it was a game for defenders. I think let's just put it that it was a game for defenders. Was that a penalty right at the end? It was offside, obviously, so you can't give it a penalty. But if it was not offside, I think offside kind of saved the referee, because otherwise he had a tough decision to make. Do you give it as offside? Do you give it as a penalty? What's interesting is that they made him go and have a look at it, because if it's offside, you just call it offside and you end it, right? I mean, the point of like making him go and check the screen made no sense. Because if the VAR deems that it's got to be checked on the screen, what they've got to do is they've got to go, right, let's check for offside, and if it's offside, then we don't go. It's just a waste of time, really, because offside is objective, right? You don't necessarily have a subjective decision of being offside. The question is whether it was a handball or not. I think it would have been a tough decision. Again, it's one of those 50-50 ones. I think it would have been harsh if it was a penalty. If you're asking me, I think it would have been harsh because it was quite close. Yes, his arm was out, and yes, it's probably hit his arm, but I think just the proximity of it is so close. I think it would have been a bit harsh. But that being said, I've seen those given. So if it was given, I don't think it would have been anything for anyone to complain about. But yeah, the offside decision saved Miami there, and it kind of maybe worked against Nashville a little bit. But that's the game. I don't think Nashville had done enough to win that to deserve to win that game. I don't think Miami deserved to win that game either. So I think a draw is about a fair result. The sad part is, of course, that there were no goals in this game, because that's what we all want to see goals. But that being said, that's what it was. What I will say is Kremasky, I've really been impressed with him. I know he's going to be playing for this. He's going to be making his debut soon for the United States. He's been called up internationally. I've actually been very impressed with him, not just in this game, but even games past. He almost adds a different dimension to this Miami team, particularly when Miami are chasing games. Now I can understand why he doesn't start games, because I don't think Miami can fit him into the side, at 0-0 or when they're winning a match. I think they I don't think they can fit him into the side right now, because they need to have other players to control that midfield. But when they're chasing a game, or when, whether it's 0-0 or whether it's behind, I just feel like Kremasky offers that dynamism that nobody else offers. He just looks so smooth on the ball. He looks so smooth in everything that he does, so calm, so composed, and he's quite young as well. He just looks very, very dynamic, and I almost feel like Messi, I think, also likes playing with him. And I'd be surprised if I think by next year, if clubs in Europe are not looking at him, because he's got something about him. Now, of course, it's MLS. It's very difficult to judge the level of these things, but the fact is that he's got something about him. There's some attributes that are interesting. I'm not saying he's going to be a top player in the future, that he's going to play for a Champions League winning side next year, but I think it'd be interesting to see if clubs in Europe, maybe the second tier clubs in Europe or third tier clubs in Europe, might be looking at second tier, third tier. I don't mean Championship or League One. What I mean is that there's a top tier of elite clubs, and then you've got the second tier of clubs, and then probably the third tier clubs, I think, might be looking at him. Maybe clubs in Portugal, or probably in the Netherlands, or places, or even German clubs, Bundesliga, mid-table clubs, might be looking at him to see maybe if he fits in there. So something to keep an eye on. But I like his performance. I mean, there's not much else to talk about, really. I mean, the defensive side of things from Nashville was really good. I thought McNaughton was my man of the match. Really, very, very, very good. Very, very good play today. I like what he did. From Miami's point of view, the issue for Miami is that if and this is something that they'll have to think about, is if Messi is not clicking, is this still a better side than they were before the MLS had the break for the Leagues Cup? Is this still a good side? Because the fact is that I think if I'm any team out that is playing Miami, if I'm in the playoff spots, my goal now is to stop Inter Miami from getting in those playoffs, because if they get in those playoffs, they're going to be favorites to win it, because knockout stage competitions, you kind of tend to favor teams like that. But so the focus right now from my point of view is to try to get into those playoff spots. So the focus for the other clubs is going to be to keep them out. So the question is, do Inter Miami have enough in games like these where clubs are going to be fighting for their lives? Because again, in cup tournaments, you don't go for nil-nils in cups, right? In cups, you want to try and win games, and so you're a little bit more expansive. Whereas in league games, a draw is not always a bad result. So when you're trying to get a draw, you can park the bus and you can try and do what Nashville did today. So in that situation, do Inter Miami have enough, aside from Messi, to break teams down? That is going to be the key fundamental question that will need to be answered. I don't think today, based on today's evidence, you'd say no, but it's just one game. I think they will need to see maybe 2-3 more games. The international break games where Messi will be unavailable along with a few other players that will not be there, those will be the key. Can Inter Miami get points from those games while these players are not available? Because if not, I think they can kiss their chances goodbye of being in the playoffs. But that's still some ways away. Some time more for that. For today, it's a frustrating home draw for Inter Miami, even with all the mind games that they played by unveiling the Leagues Cup trophy in front of Nashville, who they beat in the final. all of that, nothing mattered. In the end, Nashville came with the game plan. They knew what they wanted to do and they executed it to perfection. I think that is commendable for that. So congratulations to Nashville. Well done. Smash a like for Nashville. And smash it if you enjoyed the game. If you're a fan, of course, smash a like for them. Really well done. Share your thoughts on the game if you did watch it. What do you think about Messi's performance? What do you think about Nashville's performance? Was there any other players that stood out for you? Mention that in the comments. Of course, I would love hearing from you. Do subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're getting very close to 400 subscribers on YouTube, so please subscribe and help us cross that milestone. We always appreciate the support. Tomorrow is transfer deadline day, so we might have a few videos coming because of news that filters through. So subscribe and stay notified as things happen. Take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.